Greetings, my friends. Jimmerlins here with your Source Filmmaker Tip of the Day. Today is Tip of the Day number 44. As always, thank you for tuning in, for subscribing to my YouTube channel, and for all the great feedback. It is mightily appreciated. In today's tip, I am going to show you how you can use lights in Source Filmmaker to project textures onto various surfaces within your scene. Sort of like a slide projector or something similar to that. And with this technique, you can create a variety of interesting effects. And I hope that you will get some use out of it. In order to do it, we are going to use a feature of Source lights called the Gobo texture. And to clarify, a Gobo is a device. The term comes from theater and film, and I believe mostly from theater early on. But a gobo is a device, a physical device you actually slot into a light, and it goes between the light source and the lens. So it goes between the bulb and the lens, and it changes the shape of the light. So you could make a pattern, or you could make the light fit a specific space or something like that. Some gobos went inside. They had other ones that you might call barn doors that would change the light in other ways. The long and the short of it is that a gobo is just a term from film and theater lighting that just refers to putting something in front of the light so that it projects a shape. In Source Filmmaker, it's a little bit different because you're not projecting a shape, you're projecting a texture. You can actually project shapes, but for right now, I'm going to show you how you can project a texture. Now, what I've done is I took a photograph of my cat sitting on the counter right before I was about to brew some beer, and this was him checking out things. And I thought this would be funny to make into a texture. So I pulled it into VTF Edit. And actually, what I did was I pulled it into GIMP, and I made a square image. Now, this is an edited version of it with the background removed, and I'll show you that in a moment. But you have to make a square image of whatever you want to see. It has to be square, so equal width and height. And then fill it with black. As you can see, what I did here was the background is filled with black. And then I have whatever it is that I want to project, or whatever texture I want on the front over the top of that. And then you save it as a Targa file, that is a TGA file. Then you import that TGA file into VTF Edit. And see my earlier tutorials, or go to Google and search out VTF Edit to get a copy of this program. And you import the Targa file into VTF Edit, and then you export it as a VMT, or as a VTF, excuse me. And then you can use it inside of Source Filmmaker. And that will let you turn any image you have into a texture. And you can use these in a variety of ways. But in this particular example, we're just using this to project a light through it. So I've actually created a couple of lights here. The first one is this one here, light number 2. And if we look at light 2 in the element viewer, we can see, actually, it's light 1. If we look at light 1 in the element viewer, we can see that its texture is set to cat.vtf, which is the first one that I did, which is I basically took this photograph, slapped it on a background, and saved it as a Targa file, imported it into VTF Edit, then saved it as a VTF, and I placed it in my Source Filmmaker Materials folder. It does have to be in your Materials folder so you can find it when you go to this dialog here. Let me just actually demonstrate what I mean. I'm going to move the work camera over here, and I'm going to create a new camera, and we'll change the scene camera to camera 3. And then I'm going to say, create an animation set for a new light, light 3. And then I'm going to, or excuse me, not light 3, light 4. I'm going to drag light 4 in here and switch to the motion editor, and light 4 is pointing over there. So I'm going to move it over here to where I am going to be facing the wall. And then I will right-click the light, and I will say, set light gobo texture. And from that, I will pick, in this case, I'm going to pick the first one I did, cat, so you can see what it looks like on the wall. And this is not optimal, of course, because now it's displayed everywhere. So the next thing we're going to want to do is look at the light in the element viewer. So we're going to go show an element viewer light. And down here is this little checkbox. It says Uber light. Don't know what that means, but when you do that, when you check Uberlight, it allows you to use the width and height attributes. So I can adjust the width so it only shows the area that I want. So now I've just got the area that I want showing. And I'm going to change the scene camera to camera 3. I'm going to move camera 3 over here to where we can actually see this. And this is a little bit bright. So I will grab the light and I'm going to turn down the intensity a little bit. And we can see that there is a projected version of that image on the wall. Now, here's a couple of things you're going to run into with this. You're not going to be able to get perfection with this. It's not like you're placing a decal on the wall. You are projecting light through it. So this is always going to look a little bit more like a slide than it will a texture on the wall. But you can produce some interesting effects, especially, for example, if you wanted to do something like, say, create a slideshow, like somebody's in a dark room or there's a group of people in a room and they're watching a slideshow. Well, now you have the perfect way to do that because you can swap these things in and out using animated lights. So that is how you can project a light on a surface. And if we switch back here to camera 1, you can also see that you can project a light onto a smaller surface by placing the light a little closer. And that's what I've done here. And this is a cropped version of the same image. I really just took the same image and edited it a couple of times while I was experimenting with this to determine how it worked. Now, this one here was projected onto a yellow surface. This wet floor sign is yellow, and I did that intentionally. I know it doesn't look great, but I did it intentionally to demonstrate something, which is that the color balance can affect how it looks. I mean, I had to turn the red and the green way down to offset the yellow and then drop the blue a little bit. So you can actually project onto colored surfaces and to a certain extent get a more realistic look out of it. This obviously doesn't look the same as it does over here. I could probably stand to increase the blue a little bit to get even closer. But the point is that I'm able to a certain extent offset the yellow background, but only to a certain extent. It is not perfect. And I'm still learning about how to use it. But that's how you can project a light onto that surface. If we change to camera 2 here, we can see that this is a version of the, switch to the work camera so you can see all this in context. Over here, I have the same thing, but now it's projected on a more neutral background. In this case, a piece of beige paper on an easel. And so without that ambient effect of the background coming through of the light changing the color, or the background color of the model changing the color of the light being projected on it, it looks a little bit more realistic, but it still has that sort of projected quality. And no matter what you do, you're going to run into that. You're not going to get perfection out of this. A couple of people have that I've heard from have used this technique to some good effect for projecting blood effects and so forth. Your mileage may vary on that. But it is a great way to get projection of elements onto surfaces or to project, especially if, like I said, if you wanted to create a slideshow type effect. And one other thing that I thought was fun that you might enjoy here is I also wanted to demonstrate something else here. If I grab this wet floor sign and turn it around, you'll notice that the effects stay on the surface of it. And the reason is because after I projected these lights on it, after I projected light 1 and light 2, so they're facing it with their particular Gobo textures, projecting the cropped cat on one side and the cat sitting on the counter on the other side, I then locked them to the object by using the wet floor sign's static prop here. Actually, no, it's root transform. And I locked it to the two lights so that now any motion of this causes the lights to move with it. And of course, they will stay there. So if you have a need to project on a surface that's going to be moving, well, get it set up, then lock it to the object you want to move, and then move it to your heart's content, and the light will stay connected with it. Another thing that you may want to do, especially if you're going to be moving something around in an area that has other models, is look here at clicking Disable Shadows. which will prevent you from having certain problems with the way lighting will interact with other objects passing between the light and the surface it's projecting on. And if you want to get even more tricky, you will want to look at the min distance and max distance, and the horizontal field of view slider can also have an effect. For example, on how the that's an interesting little thing there. That shouldn't happen. But the horizontal field of view will affect how wide the image will be projected. So I'm still learning a lot, and I'm sure you will learn quite a bit experimenting with light gobo textures. But the basic rule of thumb is that you're going to need a VTF file, and you can create those with VTF edit. Anything that is black in the VTF file will not allow light through. And anything that is not black, well, it'll project through it. So, for example, if you needed to create just purely shaped lights, like a bullet hole, or just like if you wanted a silhouette, just create a silhouette with black background and a white foreground, and light will go through it. If you needed to get a red filter in the shape of a cat, you could outline a cat and then just use a red overlay and just shoot light through that. Or you could create a white cat silhouette on a black background and project red light through it. So your possibilities there, they are wildly variable. But in the end, you can produce a lot of very interesting effects using this technique. I think that I've blithered on long enough, and I think you get the idea of how to use light gobo textures to project images onto surfaces in your Source Filmmaker scenes. I look forward to seeing what you all do with it, and I hope that you have enjoyed this tip of the day. As always, I am your friend Jimmer Lins. I sincerely appreciate you tuning in. I look forward to our next tip of the day. Until then, enjoy using Source Filmmaker.